Welcome to the show. It's going to be a good day today. And we are going to talk about being pivot proof. Now, I don't know about you, but I for sure have pivoted a lot during my entrepreneurial journey. And if you have, give me a little virtual high five through the podcast, through the screen, because I feel like pivoting is actually a part of the process. And it can also be the thing that kind of we can feel like we're taking a couple steps forward and then 5 steps back and then 2 steps forward and 5 steps back because of all of this pivot stuff. And so I'm going to give you one of my biggest tips when it comes to being pivot proof. Now, if this is your first time joining us, welcome. My name is Charity Majors. I'm the founder of Business Bubbly, and my heart is to serve women in business so that their big ideas, the hopes and the dreams that are on their heart, to support their family, to support their lifestyle, that they're able to come to life, to flourish, to bloom, to blossom. And I actually really believe that we're not meant to be on that journey alone. And so that's why I've created this nationwide networking company where you, as a woman in business, you can show up in all of your too muchness and make big entrances, connect with other like-minded women in the room, and in the places where maybe you feel like you're not enough and that you don't have what it takes and that you're frustrated, that you can actually go and you can make the connections, you can take the action steps, you can get the unique perspectives, the referrals that maybe you need to grow your business. And that happens in rooms of community and connection, which is what we are all about. So welcome. I'm so glad you're here. And let's get back to the topic of being pivot proof. Now, I know for me, I have for sure pivoted multiple times in my entrepreneurial journey. And this has sometimes looked like pivoting in different industries. This has looked like pivoting different messages. This has looked like pivoting in different offers and maybe trying something and failing forward and it almost feels like throwing spaghetti on the wall and seeing what sticks. Now, you can try that. Maybe you're there. And maybe you also know how frustrating that can be. Maybe you also know how defeating that can feel, how overwhelming, like the weight of the overwhelm that can cause, as well as the confusion that your audience, that your email list, that your social media might be feeling because of all of the pivots that you have been doing. Now, there is truth that lives in the tension of this, because some of the pivots that you are taking are actually good and needed and necessary. And there's actually an easier way to be able to become pivot proof when it comes to actually being able to pivot, to offer different things, to test things with your audience and have it not feel like a big, huge flop all of the time. Okay. Now, I remember when I first started in the entrepreneurial journey, it was kind of like that throwing spaghetti on the wall. A lot of the time, it was like, okay, I'm going to create this thing, and this thing really, really helped me, and I'm going to put together this program, and I'm going to put it out there on social media, and everybody should join. But not everybody did, right? A lot of times it was actually a big fat fail and a big fat flop, and really, really frustrating. And I just remember launch after launch and program after program. And I just felt like I was trying to convince people to try and take this thing that was life-changing and all of this different stuff. And I just remember it was like, okay, the definition of insanity is doing the same exact thing over and over and over, expecting a different result. And so I could realize I could no longer do what I was doing, and I had to do something drastically different. Like I had been in enough frustration, enough pain, enough hitting my head up against the wall that I was finally ready and able to do something. So maybe you, if you're listening to this and you're like, oh dear God, Charity, that is me. I am so overwhelmed. I'm so frustrated. What I'm doing is not working. And I know that I need to do something different, but what? What is that thing that I need to do? And here's what I learned. First of all, I want to actually say what it wasn't. Okay. It wasn't another launch. It wasn't another funnel. It wasn't another freebie. It wasn't another fancy thing on Canva. It wasn't trying to beat the algorithm again. It wasn't trying to learn a whole new social media strategy. It wasn't trying to learn another social media platform. It was none of that stuff. It was actually me creating and building an expertise brand, a personal brand. And here's the value in creating that personal brand and actually showing up as that thought leader, showing up as that leader we're following, showing up with a message that I can monetize, with a stance that I have taken, with confidence and assurance in my voice, with where I'm going, with the vision of what I know, what I'm doing, is that when I actually showed up as that leader worth following, when I actually showed up with a book, and speaking on stages and all of this, media appearances and all of this stuff as an industry expert, then that actually made all of the different pivots, all of the different new program offerings, all of the different freebies, all of the different things way easier. Okay. But the hard part is that a lot of times we think that when it comes to building a personal brand, becoming a published author, getting up on stages, creating our own stages, having a podcast, showing up as the subject matter expert, that it actually takes a really, really long time. Now, there is truth that lives in the tension of this, okay? Because here's the thing, a lot of times the biggest gap that we have in the length of time is actually who we become in the process of that, of actually believing that we are an expert, of actually believing that we are worthy of getting the book out, that we are actually solid and strong enough and confident enough in the message that we have on our heart to show up in a much bigger way. Versus the imposter syndrome, versus the, oh, who am I to say this, do this, launch this, create this, publish that, right? And I actually go into depth in some of this in my book, Meant for More, Igniting Your Purpose in a World That Tries to Dim Your Light. So get your copy if you haven't. But here's the thing, is that the biggest gap that happens is from the who we know we are called to be on the inside compared to where we are, to where we are now and what that actually looks like when it starts to show up in our external world. But one of the quickest ways to get from point A to the dream we have in our heart to point B to the dream manifest in front of us is actually building that personal brand and becoming an expert and being seen as the expert that we already are. Now, here's the thing is and being in the networking world, having obviously Business Bubbly, it's a company where we literally get to know women in their business. Like, oh my gosh, you guys are amazing. Like, you listening to this right now, you are amazing. There is something that you have learned. There is something that you know. There is something that you have gone through in your life, and you've picked up lessons along the way. You probably have a bunch of fancy certifications and letters behind your name, just like I do, to prove to yourself that you are actually an expert in the industry. You are probably way more of an expert than what you actually think that you are. Just a quick little invitation here for you to give one of my new favorite products a try. It's called Glossy. And if you know anything about me, that you know that I love to share things that I love. I love to talk about the things that I love that I'm using, whether it's new products, new services, fun books that I'm sharing about. So I'm always on the hunt for new products that help with high performance, that help me not only as a business owner, as a founder, as a speaker, as a podcaster, and even as a mom feel better, but it's got to be able to fit into my daily routine. And I have found one that is like my new obsession. It's called Glossy. It's a skin and a gut daily ritual supplement. It's a skin routine that you can drink. Not only does it taste amazing, like a light, refreshing lemon spa water that I could drink all day, seriously, but it's making me feel so recharged and like I'm feeding my body and skin everything it needs to keep up with me and my goals. It has a clinically studied probiotic in it that survives the trip to your gut so that you know that it's working, along with hyaluronic acid, which is incredible for glowy, hydrated look to your skin. And on top of that, it's loaded with skin-loving ingredients like zinc, magnesium, vitamin C, coconut water, coconut water powder, minerals, electrolytes, and antioxidants. It's how I love to actually start my day as well as end my day, because when I wake up in the morning, I actually get the feeling that I feel less bloated, which, hello, is amazing. So for real, this is a game changer, especially if you travel, if you're busy, and if you have to have something that help you support your body while you are going after your big ideas. So if you want glowing skin and a happy gut, go grab your subscription, because it's the best results take 30 to 60 days. You can go to getglowsy.com. That's GETGLOCI.com, and use my coupon code CharityMajors for an awesome discount. Now, understand that this product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. But again, that's all the official legal stuff, right? Go to getglowsy.com and grab your skin and gut supplement, because great skin starts from within. That's at getglowsy, GETGLOCI.com, and use my coupon code CharityMajors. Grab your subscription today. You are going to love it. I have no doubt. Go to getglowsy.com and use the coupon code CharityMajors. Now, back to the show. You are actually probably way greater at your subject than what you actually think that you are. And it's because you're probably trying to figure out and fumble through the business side of things to get out the fact that you are an expert, to get out the fact that you're actually really, really good at your product or your service or whatever it is that you offer your clients and your customers. And I remember when this kind of kicked in for me. Okay. And this was back in the day. I was like, I was actually writing my first book, and I was doing a collaborative book, and they'd asked me to put together a bio. And I was like in this book, and it was with a bunch of other CEOs, and I felt like an imposter. And I was like, who am I to say this? And oh my gosh, and all this different stuff. And I just remember like starting to put together my bio, and I was like, oh, I've actually done a lot. Like, I don't know if you've ever done a resume recently, but I actually would highly suggest you doing this, because if you actually look back at your journey, the experience that you have, the qualifications that you have, the things that you have learned in your industry, or the things that you have learned what not to do. I mean, hello, I've actually learned how to be a really great leader because I've been under some really crappy leaders, right? What not to do, right? And I've been under really, really great leaders and followed like what they have shared. And so sometimes we actually learn what not to do. So you're actually more of an expert than what you probably think that you are. You're actually more qualified than what your imposter syndrome says that you are. And the biggest way to actually begin to show up in the world as that is to be seen as that expert. Okay. And that looks like publishing books. That looks like having a podcast or getting onto other people's podcasts, which is actually way easier than having a podcast. It's getting on other people's podcasts, and to like do a podcast tour, to be a speaker, to actually show up, to pitch, to show up not only on other people's stages, to have your own stage, to start to really leverage those connections that you're making, to have media appearances. And I remember when I actually started to learn this concept of what it looked like to show up as an expert, I had to do more than just say, I'm a speaker on my website, right? My content actually had to show that I was a speaker. I actually had to start to develop messages, and I had to start to create these places where I could work out some of these messages and see what landed with other people, to where they were like, yes, that. Like, I remember when I was speaking, I was hosting one of my networking events with Business and Bubbly. And I was just kind of sharing some concepts, and all of a sudden it just like rolled out of my mouth. And it was like, when money gets in the hands of good women, great things happen. And all of a sudden the room was like, yes, like all of the girls were like, yeah, like they started clapping and cheering and all this different stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, this is really good. Like, this is totally landing with who I'm speaking with. And so I was able to take that little nugget of a mic drop moment, and it has become one of our slogans. It's become like some of the big part of our message and the big part of our mission, right? And so it's actually like, okay, what does it look like to take a stand? What does it look like to have an audience or people that I can actually test different messages with? And this concept actually comes from comedians. I remember when I first heard about this. If you are familiar with like Jerry Seinfeld, he's one of the top comedians in the world. And what he actually does, and a lot of comedians do this, is they actually will work on their jokes and they go into these smaller speakeasies and they work out like the really crappy jokes that they feel like they've been working on. And they then watch the audience respond. And they maybe, let's say they work on 10 jokes and they're 10 brand new jokes. And they go into this new speakeasy, this little crappy dive speakeasy where it's like feels safe for them to fail. It feels safe for them to show really, really crappy jokes versus on Comedy Central or on TV where it's really, really high stakes. And so they go to these crappy little speakeasies and they practice like their 10 jokes and then they watch the audience respond. And all of a sudden the audience, if they maybe laugh at one or two, and then Jerry Seinfeld, he'll like go back to the drawing board. He'll take his 2 jokes that landed and he'll rework the other 8. And then he goes into another speakeasy, another crappy little dive, and he does his jokes. Now he's got his 2 ones and he's got his other 8 reworked ones, and then maybe a couple more land. So now he's got like 4 good jokes or 5 good jokes. He goes back and reworks them, goes to another, maybe a medium-sized speakeasy now because he's got like half of his jokes are good. He's still reworking the other ones. And it's this process of then working out the kinks in order for your message to land so that all of a sudden now he then works it out eventually to where he has 10 hilarious jokes. He gets invited onto the big shows and onto Comedy Central and creates a whatever sitcom and all this different stuff. But he had to start first in the crappy little dive speakeasy with his 10 crappy little jokes to be able to see the response and the reaction to then work them through. Okay. And what this looked like was for him to be able to work on his craft, to take a stand, to have a message, to start to have people start to know him, like him, trust him, build an audience, build this now personal brand that has now made him pivot proof. Okay. So this is the magic of what it looks like to become a leader worth following. This is the magic of what it looks like to have that pivot proof personal brand, to show up as an expert, to have your content show up as an expert, to have a message that you've worked out, to be confident in the way that you're delivering it, and to like kick imposter syndrome in the face and say, you know what, even if I feel like I'm not enough, I'm still going to do this. Even if I feel like I'm an imposter, I'm still going to come out and I'm still going to do this. I'm going to invite people in on the journey. Right. And that's what all of this is about. So if you want to actually learn what it looks like to grow your personal brand, to have a message, to become a leader worth following, to stand out as an industry expert, to move from the middle of the pack to taking the lead, then you need to be at our Business and Bubbly Conference. It's April 4, 5, and 6 in Boise, Idaho. It's going to be an incredible, incredible weekend that will give you tangible takeaways as well as time to implement the concepts that we are talking about that will help you create a personal brand, that will help you stand out in the industry, that will help you market effectively and quit spinning your wheels over and over and over, and to actually gain traction in your business. So go to businessandbubbly.com/conference, grab one of the last early bird tickets. We're actually almost done with early bird sales and ticket sales. So go to businessandbubbly.conference or businessandbubbly.com/conference. Get your early bird discount ticket before they are gone and join us in Boise, Idaho, April 4, 5, and 6. It's going to be an incredible, incredible weekend where you are going to learn what it looks like to not just learn about building your personal brand and standing out as an expert in your industry, but actually doing it, because we're implementing. We're not just about knowledge. We're about implementation. We're not just about information. We're about doing and putting the knowledge into play. And it's going to be done right then and there. So you actually go home with tangible assets that show and prove that you are an industry expert and a leader worth following. So go to businessandbubbly.com/conference, and I cannot wait to see you there. Cheers to your success. We'll see you soon. Thank you so much for listening to the show. I hope it brought some value and some fun into your business and life. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast, and even share the episode with a fellow business bestie who you know will love it. It helps us continue to attract top-level guests and reach more and more women who are on their journey in business just like you. Remember that when money gets in the hands of good women, great things happen. Cheers to your success.